Escape Pod. Episode 1018. Knit 3, Save 4. By Marie Vibert.
Hello and welcome to Escape Pod. I'm Mer Lafferty, your host and co-editor. Today's story is Knit 3, Save 4 by Marie Vibert. Marie Vibert is a Hugo and Nebula finalist with over 90 stories in top magazines like Clarkesworld and Analog. By day, she is a computer programmer in Cleveland, Ohio. Her latest book, Andre and the Hellcats, came out this year, and it's about a sex-positive sex robot who needs to enlist a space biker gang to rescue his sister bot. Curtis Chen called it Murderbot, but make it fashion. It's narrated for us by Isabel Kim. She's a Korean-American speculative fiction writer based in New York City. She's a Shirley Jackson Award winner, a Hugo, Nebula, and Astounding Award finalist, and her short fiction has been published in Clarkesworld, Lightspeed, and Strange Horizons, among other venues. Her work has been reprinted in the Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy 2023 and 2024 and translated into Chinese and Japanese. When she's not writing, she's either practicing law or co-hosting her internet culture podcast, Wow If True, both equally noble pursuits. This story was originally published in Fantasy and Science Fiction back in 2019. Count your stitches and don't drop any. It's story time.
Knit 3, Save 4 by Marie Vibert, narrated by Isabel J. Kim. The ship was 2 days overdue for docking, more or less. As a stowaway, I didn't have access to the status reports. My passive data sniffer patiently checked for the docking station network, telling me, nope, not there yet. My calendar showed the original estimated time of arrival 2 days and 3 hours ago. This had been the point at which I said I could start worrying. I was calculating a new point at which to worry. There wasn't much else I could do. If I tried to do anything, I'd get caught and tossed out of an airlock because, as I said, stowaway. So I knitted. I always knit when I'm bumming. It helps to have something to do while you count your remaining rations and wonder if this is where you die. Also, traveling in storage containers means I had a constant need for warm knit garments and blankets. Since I was sure I was about to die, I was doing this insane lace stitch. Everything was slip knits and cables and knit 3 into 2 and shit. Getting angry at the person who wrote this pattern distracted me from my inevitable demise. The wall panel over my head wrenched open, flooding me with light, and these two people were staring at me, and I realized I was in the middle of a cable and I didn't remember if it was a cable front or behind. The moment of confusion got me through without a heart attack. I was wedged between boxes of whatever, helmet and gloves off, knitting in front of me, yarn pulled taut and looped around my finger, my instruction screen floating near at hand. I had crumbs all around me because I had eaten the last, most dried out biscuit. Also, I probably stank. I had been in the cargo box for 7 days and my Eversani, TM, wasn't as ever as it started. My captors had vaguely Asian features, a guy with a shaved head and a woman with her black hair in tiny pin curls. Pin Curls was holding the hatch. She looked like she might put it back on me. Shaved Head said, "Well, that figures." Pin Curls pushed the hatch door all the way open. Fuck. Of all of the fuck. "It's not like this makes things worse," Shaved Head said. This was not the typical Discovery reaction us stowaways get. The typical reaction was a swift kick out of an airlock or detention until landing. Since we were 2 days overdue for docking, I was hoping for detention. They had to be close to docking, right? "I'm throwing her out of the airlock," Pin Curls said. I let go of my knitting to hold my hands up. "You can have my stuff. Please don't kill me." Pin Curls pursed her lips like my pleading made her day worse. Shaved Head held his hand out. "Come on," he said. "You might as well be doomed with the rest of us." He pulled me into the crew's common space. It was about the size of an apartment kitchen, and as crammed with potted herbs and potholders and garage sale junk as my uncle's place. A barrel-bodied robot crouched in an alcove, holding a ladle. An old woman was bouncing back and forth between the only portal and a table. She saw me, closed her eyes, and said, like a prayer, "Let this be the last bad news today." "Nothing in storage we can use," Pin Curl said. The old woman looked like she would cry. She pressed her face to the portal. "Didn't feel like I was their top worry. Is there something I can help with?" "The station won't let us dock," Shaved Head said. "No one's coming to resupply us. Even with the plants, we have maybe 2 days of air left, and you're using up an extra person's oxygen." "Well, excuse me." The old woman said, "Gong, be nice." "I'm being nice, Abuela. Charlie wanted to chuck her out of an airlock." A radio crackled, and I swear the air pressure dropped from all of the intaken breaths. Abuela approached the radio like it was a poisonous spider on the wall. Then she relaxed, her whole body at once. Just static. Pin Curls, Charlie, had her hands on the ceiling like she was going to powerlift it. "There's some sensor says our hull is too weak, electrical resistance patterns or something. The station says it's too dangerous and the cargo owners won't come get us either." I knew how to fix this. Disable the sensor. You can fake the readings with. Tried that. 3 voices declared in weariness. Gong leaned toward me. It might have helped if we hadn't fixed our problem so fast after they detected it. "You think?" Charlie kicked the wall to propel herself over to Robot and briefly tussled with him over the ladle. "Okay," I said. "So we figure out where the hull is weak and reinforce it." "With what?" Having successfully wrested the ladle, Charlie pointed it at me. Our exploration of the cargo turned up 1 freeloader and a bunch of crumbs. "Yeah, eating crumbly food in 0G is a faux pas. 2 days overdue for docking times how much oxygen and fuel?" I saw the others sizing me up against their own survival. "So, hey, I'm Mouth," I said. Charlie sneered. "Is that a first name or a last name?" "It's the one I'm giving you." She looked like she thought this was another reason to kick me into the cold embrace of space, but Gong grabbed my hand and squeezed it. "Welcome. You've met me and Charlie and Abuela. That's Fat Robot Chen." The robot perked up and saluted. "That I am." "That's a interesting name." "He looks like my buddy Chen." Gong shrugged. "You know, if he were a robot and fat." Abuela tisked. "So friendly. Not enough concern about how we are all going to die. The station's insurance company refuses to allow us to dock as they would be financially liable for structural damage if our ship failed during docking." She showed the message to me. They tacked, "Not to mention the tragic loss of human life," on the end. I wondered if it was an AI correcting their lack of humanity, like a grammar check for decency. And there it is, Rhea Station. Abuela held her hand over the porthole like she was holding back a curtain. So close and so far. The station was the size of a teacup in the view, but close enough that we could see the flitting lights of other ships. "I still say we abandon ship." Gong floated at my elbow. "Hop in our EVA suits and the station rescue team will pick us up." Abuela met this with a string of Spanish curses that I'm going to guess added up to, "My ship and cargo are worth more to me than your nutsack remaining attached to your body." Gong rolled his eyes, which resulted in more curses and Charlie snapping at the both of them to get over it. And I got the distinct feeling this was an argument that had been going on for about 2 days, maybe 4. I cleared my throat. "Hey, I'm okay jumping out for station rescue myself." They looked at me like they had forgotten I was there, except Fat Robot Chen, whose eyes tracked Gong. Charlie raised one hand, a smug/sour look on her face, as if to say, "Tossing you out the airlock was my idea first." Abuela pursed her lips. "They might not pick up a stowaway. No, I forbid it. And Shirley, yeah, I can hear you thinking, No one is getting tossed out anything. Abuela was right. A lot of people killed stowaways to discourage the practice because capitalism. Time to save the day. We lower the air pressure, get rid of all the nitrogen and go pure oxygen. That'll relax the hull, maybe close some tears. Abuela snapped her fingers and pointed. Gong swam to the controls. Yeah, we can do it. I turned back to the cargo box to get my knitting. Charlie flew neatly in my way, glaring death at me. I left stuff in there. Too bad. With the air of a sentry putting up a deadly weapon, Charlie velcroed the ladle into place over a set of pot holders. The air vents hissed. Maybe it was my imagination, but it felt colder as the air mix changed. I went in the other direction then and checked out the cargo manifest. It's nice to know what you've been getting poked in the back by. 300 popsicle forms, a gross of personal AIs. Freeze-dried food rations, novelty items. Best not examine that one. Wait, you have 2,500 meters of cable? I asked. None of your business. Abuela shooed me away from her control panel. I'm asking the station to please check us again that we have lowered our pressure. The sensor still says it's not good enough, Gong said, coming in from aft. I'll disable it again. Charlie pushed herself forward. I was relieved to have her gone. Abuela hung by the radio like it was prom night and her date hadn't called. After a long time, there came a reply. Long and half-legal terms which ended with, Lady, look at it from our perspective. Any ship docked is a hole we can't close. I'm sorry, but no. Abuela curled into a ball, a little old lady bean right there. It broke my heart. Charlie gathered a handful of my jacket. So we toss her, right? To buy time? Wait! I windmilled in her grip. What about the cable and cargo? Charlie, exhibiting her rosy outlook on others, said, No way am I letting you go back and get some weapon from your hidey hole. I wrenched out of her grip and caught myself against a bundle of bags on a wall. Trust issues? Tell me about the spool of cable you got in cargo. It might save us. Gong answered for them. It's a high-strength polymer, but what are we supposed to do with it? Tie the ship together? I turned to Abuela. How thick is this cable? Charlie huffed. What does it matter how thick it is? I mimed looping cable around my arm twice and realized that I suck at miming. We tie the cable around the ship. Gong shook his head. We can't make it even pressure. Tie in one direction, you weaken the other. Let me have my knitting. I'll show you. Charlie was neatly in my way again. I'm still not letting you go back there. Ugh. Back to miming. We make a bag, a mesh bag, slide it around the ship. I'll need at least 2 others helping. When we get to the far side, I wriggled my fingers around an imaginary egg shape and mimed pulling strings. We pull it tight. Bam. The whole ship is more secure. The pressure adjusts evenly through the give in the stitches. Gong looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Charlie, the one I was expecting the most objection from, was frowning thoughtfully. You need a hole in the bag for the docking ring, she said. Well, yeah, I said. The cable is not ours, Abuela smacked the table. Knitting can always be undone, I said. We won't be cutting any of it. Come on, who's with me? There was an awkward silence. You're an idiot and a stowaway, Charlie said. But I'm not letting you take all the glory. I'm in. Unexpected ally. I held a hand up for her to high-five. She glared at it. I don't know, Abuela said, which was better than no. Gong asked Fat Robot Chen, What do you think, buddy? Can this plan work? Chen cocked his bucket-shaped head. What plan was that, dude? And also, did you mean, can this plan work, or may this plan work? Gong patted the flat robot head. He's a work in progress. Gong and Abuela resumed arguing. Charlie declared she was going to her bunk, forgetting she was keeping me from going into the cargo hold. Yes. I got my knitting and my tablet. I pulled apart the lace thing I'd been making and started a simple mesh bag for demonstration purposes. Crap. How big was this ship? I loaded up the instructions for the bag and tried to convert units from inches to meters. Gong opened and closed cupboards and storage ties around the room. Are we out of anything remotely good? Who bought all these pouches of wax beans? Fat Robot Chen trundled along the ship floor, gripping it somehow. I got you, bro. The special of the day is chipped beef on toast. No, no, no. Gong gently steered Chen away from the microwave. Buddy, you gotta stop trying to cook. You'll get us both spaced. The struggle escalated, which I thought unwise since it increased Gong's breath rate, and Abuela saved me from having to mention this by flying screaming at the both of them. Charlie leaned in from the opening to the crew cabin. Are we going to eat? If eating is still something we get to do? They were exhausted. A captive audience. So about that plan I was talking about, I showed them my bag. I wrapped it halfway around a wax bean packet. You see? I pulled the bag fragment tight and poked at the packet. Evenly supported. Abuela paused in grabbing Gong by the ears while Gong was wrestling the ladle away from Chen. That could work. She narrowed her eyes. But I'm not doing it, and I'm not sending my grandson out into vacuum. Before I could say, well, if there's compensation in it for me, Charlie bundled me into my helmet and gloves and pulled me with her out of the airlock. Rude, but she showed me where to clip my safety line while Fat Robot Chen spooled the cable out from the cargo bay. The cable was flexible enough to loop around my forearm. I wished I had 4 ship-sized needles, but I could let stitches float free, given the lack of gravity. Slipped stitches, when a loop falls off your needle, aren't as much of a problem in zero-G knitting. They float there, the friction of the yarn holding the loop open until you get your needle into it again. Lucky for me, because I was a terrible knitter when I started bumming. The ship was an uneven football shape, round on one end and tapered on the other. The round end would be the perfect bottom of my bag, so we moved toward it to start. The suit gloves made me clumsy, but we were going huge here. I made a slip knot the size of a hula hoop and knit 10 stitches as big around as my forearm into it, making a disc. It was fun knitting so big and went fast. It was like spinning a huge beret, the disc doubling in size with every revolution. Charlie gazed down the length of the ship to where Fat Robot Chen handed cable out the airlock. Is this going to be enough? I should have finished my math. The ship was bigger on the outside. Inside, it had felt the size of my uncle's camper van. Outside, it looked the size of a trailer truck that delivers camper vans. How long is this ship? 24 meters and some change if you don't count the antennae, 10 meters in diameter. I couldn't see her face with the helmet turned away from me, but I could hear the suspicion. 24 meters, 2,500 meters of cable. I needed, what, surface area to compare? It was something 2 pi r. I'm sure it's enough, I said, not remotely sure. We'd know before we ran out of oxygen, right? Knitting stopped being fun after 5 rows. My arms were sore and I was sweating and my stomach hurt from holding myself. It's a natural reaction in zero-G to lock on with your feet and keep your body bent upright. Stupidly. You don't need to be sitting, but your brain wants to. I made myself stop, but then 3 stitches later I was doing it again. Around 10 rows, the disc was big enough that I needed someone else to hold the other side. Charlie sat on the hull, passing loose floating loops under her hands, spinning the disc while I knitted the other side. When we were halfway around, the trailing cable tangled in our suit tethers. Crap. We'll have to unclip and reclip every rotation, or else we hold the mesh still and we move, I said. You could have started this inside the ship, Charlie said, unhelpfully. This is the point in a knitting project where it starts to suck. Before, every row made visible progress. Now, every row looked the same, and I was annoyed with the tethers. My hands slipped with sweat inside my suit gloves. I need a break. No, Charlie said firmly. We need to finish this in 12 hours so we have another day to come up with Plan B. A secret optimist, our Charlie. We untethered and retethered, rotating the knitting. We worked silently until the disc was big around as the butt end of the ship. Yeah, we should move this, so it's centered on the ship butt, kinda. I did more bad miming, hampered by suit arms, hoping I got the picture conveyed. Stop explaining. You're making it more confusing than it is. Charlie hopped easily from handhold to handhold, retethered, and moved the disc into position. I enjoyed the momentary rest. Better yet, there weren't any more increases now. This was as long as the rows would get, and it had only taken an hour. We might actually get this done. It was no longer sensible to rotate the knitting. There were too many random antennas and other things poking out of the hull. Charlie and I crawled in tandem, losing sight of each other, but I saw Fat Robot Chen every pass. He peered along the cable length like he was worried about me. When we were just under halfway, it was time to make a hole for the airlock. I looped the yarn 10 times around my arm, a convenient way of marking off a long length. It felt odd, slipping my arm free and letting the loops float. I was very careful with the next stitch, not pulling at all so my gap would stay. Charlie came back from the far side to watch. She thumbs upped, which I guess she realized what I was doing. I poked the loose yarn all around Fat Robot Chen while he tracked me like a wrapped gopher. Then I changed direction, knitting 1 stitch into the big loop as I began the next row around. I checked the time. Another 2 hours eaten up. I was slowing down, but there was plenty of time. I was a few stitches away from returning to the gap from the other direction when my triceps went boink, and then my forearm and my elbow and my pinky finger all cramped up at once. Charlie came to me. "You stopped." "Can't move my arm." She touched my elbow. "Show me what to do." I flinched away. "I can't. Ow, ow, ow." "Shush. Look, I saw you take a loop and put it through another loop, right? Like this?" She made a damn slip knot. Close, but not the same thing. No, just, ow. Can we go inside and rest?" "No, that'd take too long. Rest here. Stretch." I double-checked my tether and let my body go slack. I floated off the ship. Me balloon. It was a relief. Maybe I should take my chances with station rescue. At least I'd die lazily. "Why are you such a hard ass?" "We're in danger." "It's not being a hard ass if you're trying to save everyone's life." Hell, my arm hurt. "Pushing isn't going to make this go faster. You might have noticed I'm not in the best physical shape." "Shush. I'm watching a video tutorial on knitting." I made fists and slowly released them. "I'm sorry about stowing away." "I bet you are." "Well, yeah, obviously, but I mean, I don't intend to be a burden on anyone. Here, watch this." Charlie waved me over. I crawled up my rope. I was able to grip again, but my forearm twinged. Charlie slowly and carefully completed a knit stitch. "Yes," I said. "Exactly like that." She did 3 more. Her 4th, she almost did backward, but I corrected her. After the 5th, she asked, "Why stow away? You gotta risk getting killed a dozen ways." I wished I had a noble story to tell her. Some manifesto to conquer the solar system for the proletariat. I like traveling. I have a festival crew job during Lunar New Year on the moon, and every now and then I stay a full year on Mars because I have family there and they can always use help on the farm, but other than that, I'm on a new planet, a new station, a new country every 6 months, eating weird new things and meeting weird new people. This is the only way someone like me could ever do that. "You should join a cargo crew." "Yeah, how easy is that?" She didn't answer because of course she knew exactly what it took. Connections, family, a ship that didn't break. "Anyway," I said, "how much of the solar system do you get to see on a cargo ship? Orbits and docking bays." Charlie grunted. I showed her how to knit stitches into the dock hole. I guessed the size pretty good. The hole was 10% bigger than the dock. "This is hard," she said. "It hurts." "Told you so," I thought. We took turns then, every other row. I think Charlie tried to go faster than me, which made me go faster. I was hurting all over when Chen said, "Hey guys, do you want me to tell you when the cable is almost all gone?" I looked at the whole third of the ship left and wanted to cry. Charlie's fists were on her hips. "Gauge," I said. I pulled stitches out. "Chen, spool this back. We're starting over." "No," Charlie said. I ignored her. So did Chen, fortunately. She grabbed me. "No," she said. "You failed. It's not enough." We still had 5 of her 12 hours. "Knitting has this concept called gauge," I said. "The size of the finished work will increase if you make bigger stitches. We're going to make bigger stitches. I'll double loop each stitch. It should double the size." As soon as I said it, I remembered it wasn't that simple, but I didn't want her to lose faith. Charlie was breathing heavy over my radio. Panicking, maybe. "Knitting bigger goes faster," I added, "and unraveling is fast." I left a floating trail of loose cable behind me as I pulled myself recklessly, tether unclipped. As Chen drew the cable in, it danced. When I reached the butt, Charlie was there, guiding the loose cable, watching me. You'd better tether. I'm not chasing your ass if you fly off. We were silent as I restarted knitting. It did go faster, with enormous stitches. I gripped as lightly as I dared to keep from cramping up, but after 3 rows, we had to alternate again, taking cat naps on our tethers. We'd used up another 6 hours. Holy crap. I needed to rest. There's only 1 day's air left in the ship, Charlie said as we were working our way over the edge of the butt again. Now there's no time for a plan B. Well, thanks, Mary Sunshine. We made it past Chen, and I started knitting 2 together every 10th stitch to narrow the bag as the ship narrowed. I hadn't done that last time. Hey, me and you are on suit air, and maybe lower pressure means they're breathing lighter inside? I decreased every 9th, and then every 8th, and then every 7th. This was going to work. The hull was narrowing faster. I decreased every 6th. Hey guys? Fat Robot Chen said. Oh no. No. This indicator says there's 17 meters left. There was maybe a 1/5 of the ship left. It's not enough, Charlie said, crying. I was stupid with exhaustion. My eyes raced over the ship, the lovely loose net laying over it. There was nothing I could do except at the start. I have an idea, I said. Hold this. I went back to the beginning and undid the starting slip knot. I carefully unknit the first 10 rows. You can't pull knit stitches loose from the bottom like you can from the top. Unknitting is slow and annoying. If this were crochet, I could tug it free. Maybe we could start over? No. Crochet uses more yarn per foot. What are you doing? Undoing the far end. Ugh, I'll have to do it all the way to the edge of the butt. We're going to make a tube instead of a bag. We move the tube to center it, so there's like a small bit uncovered on either end, and then I'll knit this back as much as I can over the butt. 2 medium holes are better than 1 small hole and 1 big one. You'll move the dock hole away from the dock. I froze. How obvious. Our tube had an opening halfway. Look, okay, I'm not doing that. What could we do? Undo the whole thing? I'll reknit it with a hole in the middle? Yeah, tug when I tell you. It'll at least give you another foot of coverage on that side. There's give around the airlock. 1 foot won't move it too much, just make it tight on one side. What is a foot going to do? More coverage, more structural integrity. 1 more foot is 1 more foot. Start tugging. I said go, tug now. I am tugging. Do you feel anything on that end? I didn't. Damn. There were all those small projections from the ship that made us not want to turn net earlier. Thrusters, welds, anything could be caught anywhere. Chen, we need help. Help with what? Chen said. Get up here and help us move the netting over all of these greebles. Chen mused. May I leave the ship? I may. Can I leave the ship? No, I can't. Get Gong. I wanted to murder a robot just then. Charlie crawled to me. Chen's not built for extravehicular motion. Don't blame him. He can be cute when there isn't an emergency. We hung there, both exhausted and despairing and not in the mood for conversation. Gong crawled up to us. He looked at what we'd done so far. Why did you put a hole in it? Why didn't you plan to end it around the dock? Mutual desire to kill Gong united us as Charlie and I started unknitting. Every time you try to save time by not undoing something, it turns out to take too long and you end up undoing anyway. It hurt to start over, but this time we started with an about the dock-sized open ring on the far side of the ship from the dock. Now, I said, resting while Charlie micromanaged Gong's first turn knitting, we'll go as far as we can, but if we're short, that'll just be a bigger opening around the dock. And airlocks are reinforced anyway, right? Ow, 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 Gong said. My arm's cramping. It took 11 hours to finish, taking nap breaks, but we knit a bag around the spaceship that ended in a ring around the airlock. The oxygen in the ship was so low, everyone stayed in suits. Charlie and I had maybe 1 hour of suit air left each. Gong had 12 hours, and Abuela had a full day and wanted to top up our tanks with hers, but I said we'd know if it worked in an hour anyway. Then Charlie and I slept because we had to. I was so incompetent tired. Robot Chen had to tie me into a berth. I stared at my insensible arms floating in front of me. I'm never moving my hands again. We don't even know if it'll work. Gong had a gallows smile. He held onto the treadmill on the ceiling as he pushed Chen out of the compartment. I ought to have slept like the dead. The hammock was way more comfortable than a cargo box, but instead I fidgeted, slipping in and out of fitful dreams about knots. Abuela woke me by taking my helmet off. Shh. Iya, we've docked with a supply ship. I enjoyed my breath of air and swam past her to the main compartment. A big man floated by the table. We'll get your crew and contents to Rhea Station, he said, but first we need our cargo. It's a spool of 2,500 meters of multi-stranded polymer cable. Abuela's victory hug froze around me. Gong coughed. Charlie was the one to break the silence. Your cable is holding our ship together. We laughed. I don't know who started it. It might have been Chen. Our would-be rescuer muttered about oxygen deprivation and topped up our reserve tanks before leaving us to die. Ha ha. Don't look so worried. Charlie elbow-jabbed me. Now that we'd successfully docked and undocked and our sensor was quiet, Station Rescue had no problem letting us dock. Which would have been a relief if stations didn't kill stowaways. We stepped through the station airlock, heavy and dizzy like climbing out of a pool. Security people were staring at us. Security people who looked up from the crew manifest and exaggeratedly counted our heads. Abuela stuck her arm in front of me. This is our engineering intern. Such a good girl. She agreed to work for transport. Better not to put in writing and get taxed. You understand. She pouted. I would have hugged her, but that would have broken our cover. So that's how I joined the crew. Now I get to travel outside of storage containers like a good capitalist as we market our emergency structural nets to cargo ships around the planets. I also make cardigans. Fat Robot Chen graciously models them.
And that was our story, Knit 3, Save 4 by Marie Vibert. About this story, the author said, I'm a prolific knitter, and a friend rather flippantly challenged me to write about knitting a spaceship. Marie also told us that this was her favorite story that she's written. This proves that some of the best stories come from challenges. My grandmother tried to teach me to knit when I was a little kid. I failed to learn and then lost some of her best needles, which tells you a lot about me right away. She was a very forgiving person, though. Then I taught myself how to knit as an adult, but I haven't done more complex patterns than scarves, but they were really nice scarves. I know you can knit with things as small as a thread and with things as large as really thick fat yarn. My grandmother could use mop handles as knitting needles. So when our characters started knitting cables together, I figured, yeah, why not? Sounds legit. Knitting was used in fishing nets a long time ago, and if you look closely at your current machine stitch clothing, they're still using the knit stitch. I think a lot of beginning writers believe that their speculative stories need to be special in a way that doesn't actually touch on their own everyday, mundane part of their lives. Advice is write what you know, but when it comes to science fiction, a lot of authors think that their expertise in everyday things such as knitting isn't enough. The thing is, when you write about what you know, you don't only bring your expertise to the story, but you also bring your passion to the story, and that's going to be obvious. And that's what we saw here. It's extremely obvious that Marie knows how to knit and really enjoys it. And that was one of the best things to come out of this story. Escape Pod is free, and we are very proud to be free. You can get us via audio or online. It's all free. But it does cost money to keep it going because we pay our authors, we pay our editors, we pay our associate editors, we pay everybody involved with this project. So if you are the kind of person who can throw a couple of bucks towards your favorite audio magazine, there are several ways to support us. You can do it via subscription, either at PayPal or at Patreon, and honestly, those are the best ways to support us because supporting us monthly allows us to stay funded and able to plan for the future. But we'll accept any one-time donation. Or Twitch subscription, no problems. There's several ways to support us, actually. If you can't do it with money, we'd love it if you left a review on your favorite podcatcher to spread the word about Escape Pod. You can find all the donation links at escapepod.org or contact donations@escapeartist.net. When you donate, you're supporting Escape Artists, a 501c3 nonprofit with a whole admin staff and 5 magazines. And if you're in the US, you can probably write this off on your taxes, and you might have an employer matching program. Escape Pod is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. That means that you can share it, you can copy it, you can pass it around, but you can't change it and you can't charge for it. All other rights are reserved by our authors. Our music is by permission of Daikaiju. Learn more about them at daikaiju.org. And that was our show for this week. Our quote comes from Stephanie Pearl McPhee. The only difference between an experienced knitter and a new knitter is that the experienced knitter makes bigger mistakes faster. Be bold. There are no terrible consequences in knitting. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, stay kind, and have fun.